Hello everyone, it's me, I'm back. I'm sorry I haven't uploaded in about a week, but I've been sick and I still kind of am, so if I sound kind of nasally in this video, that's why, but I really wanted to film my wrap up of all the books that I read in May, so let's get into this. First up is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which I've already done a full spoiler-free review of, and I'll leave the link to it like here or here, I don't know, but the short version is that I really enjoyed this book. I think it was really well written and really entertaining. It's quite a light-hearted story, but it does have these really touching, serious moments, and the characters are just some of the most likable characters ever, and I would definitely recommend this to people. So if you haven't, maybe just look it up and see if you think it's worth the read too. Next up is the first book since The Book Thief, or since Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, to make me cry, like ugly, sobbing, gross crying. It was just, I loved it. It's We Are the Ants by Sean David Hutchinson, which is just such an emotional and powerful book. I've mentioned in a few other videos that I was really excited to read this one, and I'm happy to say that it completely exceeded my already high expectations. It's so quotable and just amazing. The characters are all really vivid. None of them feel like background characters. They're all really intricate. The main character is just phenomenal. The writing is beautiful, and it touches on some really important issues. There's a lot of grief, depression, suicide. It touches on sexuality, and all these things just come together to make an amazing book. So if you haven't read it, just do it. I could talk about this book forever. So after that, I read The Martian by Andy Weir, which I really enjoyed. I found it kind of addictive and compelling and just really entertaining. I am going to say that I preferred the movie to the book. I've seen the movie twice, once before reading and once after, and I think that if I hadn't seen the movie before reading this book, I would have been kind of confused by a lot of the scientific explanations, but that doesn't mean this is a bad book. The main character, Mark, is still really funny and just incredibly likable, and I think this book is very well done, so don't let me deter you from reading it. It's still an excellent book. Next up, I read another amazing book that I think is going to be in my top 10 at the end of the year, and it's A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas, which was just so good. I loved this book. It was amazing. 5 out of 5 stars. Just give it all the stars. It's great. And I have done a full review of this, but it's not spoiler free. So if you haven't read this book or the first one, then maybe don't click on that link. But this book is just so amazing. It's just leagues above the first book, I think. I loved the relationship in this book. I'm not going to say who it's between, but I just think it was such an amazing relationship about empowerment and equality, and it's just such an amazing thing to see in a really popular book, and this is just so entertaining, and I can't wait for the next book, and I'm just gushing about this book. It was amazing, guys, and I'm addicted. I could read this all over again. Next up, I read the second volume of Saga, which was really enjoyable. I gave this 5 stars. I just think this comic series is so well done and just put together in a perfectly entertaining way. I really enjoyed that in this volume we get a bit more background information about this ongoing war and how our two main characters met and what they were like when they were younger, and the dynamic between the characters in this one is really enjoyable. I love how bizarre some of the people or the aliens we encounter are. It's just a really fun series, and I powered through this one, and I'm really already looking forward to reading more of it. Next up, I read Cinta by Marissa Meyer, and this is the only book that I read this month that I'm kind of disappointed with. I still gave it 3 out of 5 stars because that final third of the book was really entertaining and fast-paced and just great, and I do still want to continue this series. I was just kind of disappointed in how the first half or 2/3 of the book was kind of lacking in the character development and world building that should have been present in a series like this. I don't know if the hype surrounding this series has just made me a little bit more critical of it, but I did still enjoy this book. I'm still going to pursue the series, but it just wasn't as good as I was hoping it'd be. This next book is one I read for our shared shelf. It was the March book, and it's all about love, New Visions by Bell Hooks, which I never would have read without this Goodreads group run by Emma Watson, and I did enjoy this, but not as much as the other 2 that I've read as a part of this group. This one was interesting and quite quotable at times. It's all about the question of what is love and kind of getting into what love means to different people and how we as individuals love and how we can choose to love, and it was really interesting. It's not something I'm in a hurry to recommend because I did find it kind of repetitive and I don't want to say preachy, but kind of preachy at times. My main complaint though is the final chapter, which just felt out of place compared to the rest of the book, because the whole book is about like self-love and how you can choose to love and all these sorts of things about how love is within us. And then the final chapter is about destiny and angels and how it's our destiny to love. And it just didn't really make sense to me, so this book was interesting. I'm glad I read it as a part of the group, but it's not one that I'm in a hurry to recommend. After that, I read something I should have read about 6 months ago, but I've been putting off, and it's The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, which is the third book in the Mistborn trilogy, and just, oh my god, what a conclusion to this series. This book was so amazingly well put together. Everything just came together. There was no unanswered questions. There were little things from the first book that came back in this one, and you realized that there had been things that were being foreshadowed ages ago, and I just didn't pick up on it. And this book was just so great. I love the characters in this series. They're incredibly detailed and complex. None of them are just simple black and white characters. None of them are completely good or completely evil. They're all incredibly complex and real, which I find really amazing. But I loved this book. I kind of hate myself for putting off reading it, but I'm really glad that I have now. So I've mentioned this before, but if you haven't already, the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson is definitely worth looking up. Next up, I read book 9 of the Walking Dead comics by Robert Kirkman, and I'm really excited to have read this one because I officially caught up to and then overtook the show. Because look, it's Negan. Negan's in this one. Guys, Negan. And this... what am I doing? This was just really great. I love the characters and how they're having kind of struggles to make moral decisions in an immoral world, and it was really amazing. And even though I knew what was going to happen, I was still amazed by the brutality of it. And I can't really talk about, you know, specifics because spoilers, but this series is amazing. I love that it just consistently steps it up, and I'm really excited to continue it further so that I can kind of predict what's going to happen in season 7 of the show. Alright, so the final book that I read this month was City of Glass by Cassandra Clare, which is book number 3 in the Mortal Instruments series, and I thought I was going to really hate this because on like page 50 or something, Clary does that annoying young adult protagonist thing where everyone's like, Clary, don't do that, you know, we're working it out, just give us some time. And she's like, no, I know what I'm doing, and does something stupid that just ruins everything and sets the plot in motion, yes, but makes me hate Clary. She did one of those things, and I hated it, and I thought that would mean that I would hate this book, but I ended up really enjoying it and kind of binge reading it last night because it's so addictive to read. We get a new villain and new information about the past and more backstory to characters and these huge battles, and it's just really entertaining. So I am planning on continuing this series next month, and I'm quite excited for it now because I don't remember what happens from this point on. So there we go, guys. That's all the books that I read this month, and like I said, I had a pretty good reading month. There was nothing in this list that I hated or disliked, really. I had a pretty consistently good reading month that I'm really happy with, and I'm hoping to keep it going next month. But I upload videos every Wednesday and Saturday, assuming I don't get sick again. But be sure to like and subscribe and tune in on those days for more bookish goodness. Toodaloo!